Ty Flores is my next guest as he gets ready to compete for Contender Series on August the 4th against Dustin Jacoby. Ty, how are you, sir?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Good. I appreciate the time. I'm excited to see Contender Series back up, and having you fight is a nice addition to that. I'd like to first start and talk a little bit about what training has been like for you throughout this pandemic. I know it's been a little bit different for everybody. What has it been like at Team Elevation?
It's been great, man. When the quarantine started, we had like a real small group, a lot more attention from the coaches, so it was really good. Like there was even some days where we had more coaches than we would have like guys sparring, so it was good to get all the feedback. It started with like a couple of us, like me, Curtis, Alistair, Zach, and then then we got more and more, and like we had like a pretty solid big guy group. Like it was all like light heavyweights and heavyweights and Neil Magny, but he can hang with the big guys. But it was good, man. Honestly, we made a lot of improvements, just getting like one-on-one from the coaches. I mean now, it's been pretty good as well. We're still in kind of separate groups, small guys, big guys. So more attention from the coaches is good.
Did the actual facility ever close down and force you guys to kind of get working outside?
Yeah, so we had some guys that like if we had fights, we were training. It's like Gaethje had Tony Ferguson, but like it was just the guys that had the fights and their training partners. So we have a few different gyms. So we did a lot at one of the other ones. We weren't at the main facility. They're kind of being a little more strict on that one, but we had small groups. We always obeyed the rules. So and once we opened back up, the same thing. So we didn't have any issues with it, no hiccups.
That's good to hear. I haven't spent a whole lot of time in Colorado, but the short time that I have been there, I really enjoyed it. The people are nice. What has it been like when you go out in the community during this pandemic? Are people, losing their minds like they are around my neck of the woods, or is everyone a little bit more?
Everyone's honestly pretty cool. Like, so I have friends in Miami, friends back home in St. Louis, and I think it was a lot worse there. I mean, people in Colorado are just a little, just more laid back, more chill about things. So, I mean, it really hasn't been that different. Even when things were like totally shut down, like all the bars and restaurants, it really wasn't that different. Like the parks were still open, everybody was hitting the trails out in the mountains and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it really wasn't that bad. Nobody's really freaking out, but it's actually been pretty nice.
That's good to hear. Outside of MMA, what other activities or things do you like to do? Did you catch up on some, Netflix shows or any movies during this downtime, or tell me what else have you done outside of training?
I'm a pretty big hunter, so of course, getting ready for this season. I got elk in September. I'm gonna try bear as well. Go back home and get some deer. Of course, I'm a big boar hunter as well, so trying to plan that out. So yeah, I mean, just reading books on that, looking at maps, practicing my tracking, going out the mountains and stuff. So just kind of staying active with that. But when it gets closer to the fight, I don't really feel like going out camping and stuff, and that's a lot of energy, a lot of time like that. So I kind of just hang out, read, nothing crazy. Most of the time, just dedicated to training. So.
Gotcha. As far as the bears go out there, are they black bears or grizzly bears?
So black bears, that's the one I'm going to be trying to try and hunt. There's a guy we know, and he wants to go. My best friend also moved to Colorado, and he there's a guy that's like hunted for like 20 years. He's never got an elk, and last year was our first year, and we got very close, like for bow hunting. And this guy's like, I'm like 19 for 20 for black bears. Like if you help me out with elk, I'll get you a black bear. I'm like, oh okay. So you'll be hunting for black bears, but I think there's grizzlies here too. I have friends that hunt up in Wyoming, and they go every year for elk hunting. And they're like, we see more grizzly. And it was funny because like last year on 4th of July weekend, I was out scouting for elk, and all in one day I saw a moose, a mountain lion, and I swear I saw a grizzly bear. I mean, some people don't believe me, but I'm like, it's like as the crow flies, like 30 miles from Wyoming, and it was like a fucking big bear, and he was like 30 yards from me. Like I jumped him on accident. But I'm pretty sure there's grizzly out here too. So
What did the bear do? Did he go the opposite direction?
yeah, so like I was walking, and there was like a bit of a clearing, and then there was like a small little like ridge up to my right, and he just kind of like jumped up and like scared the shit out of me. And he was right at the bottom of the ridge, and he ran straight up it. So he ran the other way. But it was crazy how fast he got up the ridge. I mean, like it was a steep incline, and he got up there in like 2 seconds. So like, had he decided to charge me, I wouldn't have been able to pull out my gun. Like I would have been screwed. But when he got to the top, then he kind of walked too. So I got like a really good look at him, and he was pretty big.
Wow,
So,
that's fascinating. I'm all the way up in Maine, and there's bears all over the place here. We actually have to bring in our bird feeders at the end of the night. We're on about 3 acres in a pretty rural part of town, and there's a black bear that's roaming the streets. He actually took one of our bird feeders and just bent it in half. Seen him on the night cam and whatnot. He's a pretty big guy. I really enjoy. My dad was always a big hunter, so that's really cool. I bet a lot more in your neck of the woods where you're at, because there's so many more, a lot of and a lot of different types of animals to hunt.
Yeah, I mean that was a big reason to move out here was the hunting too. But Maine's good too. I've always wanted to make it up there. It's kind of like the Northeast. I feel like it's pretty crowded, but Maine's kind of like a separate thing. Almost like South Canada. So it's like tons of woods out there, and like tons of black bear and everything. I've wanted to make it up there.
Man, you come to Maine, hit me up. I'll show you exactly where to go. You'll. So tell me, how did you first find and fall in love with mixed martial arts? Tell me your backstory, how you got into it.
So I wrestled in high school, but I also played soccer. So soccer is pretty big in St. Louis, and so it's pretty good soccer, pretty good wrestling. But I wasn't wrestling wasn't really my focus. I was more focused on soccer. So like I was doing off-season stuff as well as like regular high school, and that kind of like clashed with wrestling and stuff, and ended up choosing soccer, which in hindsight was probably not the best choice, because when it got time like senior year in college, I think I was just burnt out. I didn't really care. I didn't want to play in college, so I needed an outlet, and it just felt weird not to be an athlete anymore. So I started doing kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, and I'm competitive, so I wanted to compete and all that. So it just kind of stuck with me, and it kind of like I've been in sports my whole life, so it just kind of filled that hole, like I needed something else. So,
And here you are now on the doorstep, right, with the biggest promotion in the world. As far as the last time you fought, we're over a year now, so it's been a while since you actually stepped inside and competed. Is there a reason for that? Is that because you haven't been able to find fights, or a little bit of an injury? Just tell me about what's going on with that.
Yeah, I mean, I tried. I've had just this year, I've had 5 fights fall through. It's super frustrating. I think Jacoby and we've actually been scheduled or had talks to fight twice this past year, with different promotions. I know one last year, it was a little too soon after my fight. We wanted to, they were asking a month later, and I'm like, I haven't even recovered, And then earlier this year, but I think that's when he got the call to the Contender Series. It was kind of funny. I got the call a couple months later, and we're fighting each other. But I've been through 5 opponents this year. I'm on a 5-fight streak. I don't think a lot of guys want to fight. It's super annoying. One guy will accept, and he'll see oh, he's on a 5-fight streak. He trains at a Team Elevation. He looks at the guys, and mysteriously he gets injured. You know what I mean? Another guy kept saying he would want to fight, and then one of the matchmakers sent me screenshots, and it's and in public, they want to look tough, but then when they're texting the matchmaker, you're kind of being a bitch. And it's so it's super annoying, super frustrating. It was just really, really tough to get fights. And but I've been training the whole time, so I've had Curtis and Alistair fought a couple times since then. I've helped them at their camps, so I feel really good.
Yeah, and you're 7-2 now. You mentioned you're on a 5-fight win streak. Those 2 losses that you had, one of them was to a guy named Jeff Neal, who doing pretty good in his career in the UFC. When you look at those back-to-back losses that you suffered, and then running these 5 fights in a row, how have you evolved? Obviously you have some phenomenal training partners, but what has clicked with you to really take you to that next level?
Just a good environment. I mean, the first loss with Jeff, I shouldn't have taken that fight. I was 2-0 as a pro, and I had already had 2 or 3 amateur fights that year as well, and then I had 2 pro fights, one in May and then one in August. And my pro debut was against a national champ wrestler, NAIC, I think it was. So he was tough. The promoter's I did not like that matchup for you, and I won. But it was it was a really tough pro debut, and then I had a tough guy at RFA in August, and I wanted to fight in October. I think it was just kind of that Midwest mentality of just be tough. There's a lot of guys that are so skilled, and their records just don't really reflect that, because they don't ever say no. And I was kind of on that I want to fight all the time. I want to fight the toughest guys, and it was just kind of silly. Just kind of at a smaller gym, and I had great coaches, still great coaches, but I think sometimes like managing the career, like again, like Jeff was like had my record now, I think when we fought, and like I can't imagine finding a 2-0 guy right now. You know what I mean? Like I would starch him the same way that he did me. But I'm super pumped for him, man. Like he's super skilled. I'm glad to see him doing really well. Then afterwards, I moved back to Miami. I actually had the choice to go to Denver, but I chose Miami. Like, it wasn't great. I kind of bounced around gyms, and like the gym I was at, good coaches, great team there. I just don't think we really clicked. We didn't do a whole lot of like training specifically for that next fight. And then I just got caught. You know what I mean? Like it was just a silly, like it wasn't a good environment. I hadn't fought in a long time. I only had 3 pro fights, but I had like a 18-month layoff. So I think the ring rust maybe was there. I don't know. I didn't really feel it, but yeah. And then I kind of fixed that. I moved to another gym, and I felt better. Just I was never really too down. Like I knew what I could do. I knew as long as I had the right mentality and the right team around me, and here I am. So.
If you had a chance to avenge either of those losses against Jeff or Aaron, how different would those fights be now? Obviously Jeff is in a different weight class than you, but right. Tell me how differently they would go now if you ever fought either of those guys again.
Aaron, I just feel like it was kind of a fluke, man. Like even I talked to someone who was like he was scared before the fight. Some of his friends told me, you know what I mean, like kind of weird. But and I actually rocked him early on in the fight. And then I just didn't listen to my coaches, man. There were like no leg kicks for the first round, and I just kept throwing kicks. And I was being successful with it, but then, he got a good read on it, and then he kind of caught me as I was turning behind the head. It was just one of those punches, man. Like, you get hit with any of those, then, like, you're going to go out. I just, I've sparred him afterwards and everything like that, and, like, we actually wrestled once, and I made him throw up. He's a cool dude, but it was just one of those, like, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't even that offended at it because, like, I know I was going to be 10 times better. With Jeff, man, like, he's, like I said, I'm stoked for him. He's doing really well. He's, like, 2 weight classes below. I think we fought when I was, like, 20 or 21. So, yeah, with that one, it was just, like, I should have just never taken that fight, man. Like, it was just, like, he was so much more experienced than I was at the time. Like, it's, no hard feelings or anything like that. It's just like if I could go back, like I wouldn't have taken that fight at all. Like that's really, really stupid to do.
Yeah. As far as your weight class goes here moving forward, do you feel like light heavyweight is where you want to be, or would you jump weight classes if given the opportunity?
So I'm no shot I ever make 85 again. Like that's just too hard of a weight cut, Like and again, that's kind of like that Midwest mentality. They were like trying to get me, keep going down and everything. And it's like, it's just stupid, like cutting all that weight just depleted me. You watch my last fight at 85 with Bogdanovic, the whole entire time I went, very high volume fight, but like, I was just a little sloppy because like 30 seconds in, I was gassed, from cutting. I started that cut at like 228. Because I thought I was going to fight at 205 for that fight. So I was like, okay, cool. Then they offered me him, and I'm like, well, I can't turn that down. But yeah, man, it just depleted me. So I think 205 is good. I feel like I'm probably not the biggest 205er, but definitely not the smallest either. So I train with a lot of good 205ers, and it's been good, man. Like, and I train with heavyweights too. So it's I'm not really too worried about size, speed, anything like that. So
what do you walk around at?
Usually between like 230, 235 when I'm lifting a little heavier. So
a short notice fight at heavyweight, that seems like it would make sense, right?
I was trying to do heavyweight, man. Like when I couldn't get a fight, I was so annoyed. Like we were texting Mick Maynard and like, dude, I'll do contender, I'll do whatever. Like put me on for a heavyweight. I don't care. I train with Alistair, I train with Curtis. Like, you know what I mean? I know how hard they hit. I know what they can. Like, I know what it feels like to have a heavyweight on top of you. Like I'm not scared. I'll be quicker. But yeah, I think I could, and honestly, I really don't even lift like a crazy amount. Like I do just enough. I'm really focused more on the training. But like if I really got into like a pretty dedicated strength program and eating a whole lot, I definitely think I could put on some weight too. So.
Now, I'm not certain, I guess, the validity of this or the truth or whatnot, but there's always that rumor that Alistair would, eat a lot of alligator meat. Is that something that he has talked about and still does?
He's peculiar about what he eats. which is good. Like you told me a lot about the recovery and like the eating healthier, and all of that. So it's cool. Like we eat a lot of Korean barbecue when he's here. He loves that shit, and it's actually really good. But just a lot of meat. You know, he has like his shakes with the veggies and the smoothies and all that. But he's pretty peculiar about what he eats. But I will say, like when like last year, I had him over to the pool and we barbecued. We had some wild pig. I had a wild boar I shot, and then also a wild ram I shot last year, and he loved that meat. But like it's wild game meat, you know, so it's like that's like the best you can get. So yeah, you know, you can definitely taste the difference. So
Yeah, that's very cool. I love hearing stories like that. So this fight here, it's right around the corner, man. As far as making the trip with you to Vegas, who will be there cornering you on fight night?
So I'm gonna have Sean Madden and Peter Straub. I also work with Dave. He's my wrestling coach, just stud, national champion at Iowa State. But they're only allowing us two corners, so I'm gonna have Sean obviously there for the striking. Peter can handle a little more of the wrestling. He's more of a jiu-jitsu guy, but I kind of have all the bases covered there. So yeah, Peter's a former fighter. He's also a black belt under Elliot Marshall. He's the stud at jiu-jitsu, you know. And I've been working with Peter a lot, so like we've actually been having like a small group. I think he started during quarantine, and it was like Bojan is part of our team, a Serbian guy. We had Ian Heinisch was training with us for a bit. Anthony Adams, Grant Neal, Nick Rorick's been joining us. So Ian and Bo haven't been there too much lately, but it's been me, Grant Neal, Anthony, and Nick just kind of working in the mornings with Peter. So that's been great. And then Sean Madden, he's stud Muay Thai, so working a lot striking with him. So it's been great.
Now, when you get down to Vegas, obviously you're going to have the COVID test, and they're going to have to quarantine you and all of that. Are you disappointed that this opportunity isn't going to be, in front of a bunch of screaming fans? Do you feel like that's going to affect you one way or the other?
No, I mean it's like not even usually too big of a crowd at the Contender, so I don't think it's honestly like that much different. But I think it's even better, honestly. Like I'm more like a half full person because I'm thinking, like this is like the only sport, really going on right now. Like I guess maybe the NFL or not the NFL, the MLB started, but I mean, baseball's so boring. Like who even watches that anyway? But like I think a lot more eyes are going to be on the Contender now. Like all these fights going on, they've had like tons of new viewers. I think so. I think a lot of people are going to be watching it. So maybe not physically, a lot of people are going to be there, but I think like on the TV screen, like there's going to be a ton of people watching with a lot of eyes. So it doesn't make any difference to me either way, honestly.
Okay, I know some fighters feed off the energy in the arena of the fans. Is that something that normally, like, in a lot of your regional fights would pump you up, or do you not really care about that at all?
Like I acknowledge it, like I hear it, but I don't really like pay too much attention, honestly. I mean, I hear it, I acknowledge it, all that, but it's not like, I don't know, like I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do anyway. You know what I mean? Like I've never like been in a fight where it's like oh shit, like I need to like dig. Like I mean, of course you dig deep, but like that's always a given. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna go out there and do whatever. I don't need to draw from the energy.
Yeah, gotcha. So let's talk about this matchup. He's 11-5. Seems like a pretty well-rounded guy. When you look at him versus your skill set, what kind of fight stylistically do you think you're going to be in for?
I mean, I know what he wants to do, and he knows what I want to do. He's a kickboxer, pretty straight kickboxer, and I'm more of a ground guy, more of a wrestler. So, I think the difference is going to be like he knows I want to take him down. I know he wants to knock me out. I know he's not going to take me down. That would be really dumb. But I'm also not scared to strike with him either. I fought tough guys, tough strikers. I trained with Alistair. I trained with Curtis. Those guys hit so hard. So again, I'm not worried to strike with him either. And we're gonna fight at my pace. Like I'm gonna dictate that. He's always gonna have to be worried about the takedown. So I think that's gonna affect his striking. If he goes out there and he tries to strike like you would in a kickboxing match, like he's gonna be put on his back. So I'm not really too worried about it, honestly. Like I've worked tons of things for this, drilled, calling over game plans, everything like that. I definitely think I'm going to have a size advantage on him and strength. I see him. He's maybe a little taller, but he's very skinny. And then once I get my hands on him, like I don't think he's going to be able to put up with my strength.
So to me, when I look at this fight, the thing that I feel like will be the deciding factor is who's the stronger man in the clinch. You'll be able to decide where the fight goes from there. It sounds like, based on what you're saying, you feel like you're clearly going to be the stronger man and be able to take this fight where you want it.
Great. Like, I'm in such good shape right now to where I just feel like I could just straight wrestle him for 5 rounds if I needed to, and strike with him too. Like, I feel really, really good striking. I don't feel like I need to force the shot. You know, I'm not. I'm calling up a lot of good kickboxers, glory guys here too. A lot of good training partners. Like, he's not going to throw anything I haven't seen. You know. And then yeah, once it gets to the ground, like, I'm going to be close to 230 on fight night, and I don't think he walks much heavier than 205. And I'm going to put my weight on him, and I have some brutal ground and pound. I know I hit hard, but when I get him on there, like the last guy I fought, I broke his jaw after like 2 or 3 hits. So, I mean, I think I'm going to get him on the ground. I'm going to hit him a few times, and he's going to feel that. And I'm just going to zap all of his energy.
Do you envision a finish? And if so, about what round are you thinking?
As soon as possible, like, for sure. I'm ready to go. Like, I can sprint 3 rounds right now. We did a nice little circuit yesterday where, between like cage wrestling, offense and defense, some bag work, some pads and everything like that, where, Sean was throwing back at me. And I just sprinted through those 3 rounds. And that was like non-stop action. In the fight, of course, you're going to have like a little like feeling out, like all this, and it's going to be at sea level. So I'm also doing this at, a mile up. And, when Alistair fights actually too, we stay up at the Glacier in Idaho Springs. It's outside of Denver. It's 11,000 feet. So it's twice the height of Denver. So it's like I'm ready to just go for 3 rounds. And like I'm going to go at a fast pace, and he's not going to be able to keep up. I'm going to definitely just take that cardio from him. I'm going to win the mental battle too. A lot of my fights, like, I break the guys mentally. I'm not going to stop coming forward. I don't really, I could pace myself, but I don't really like to.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned training at altitude, because I really feel like that is such a big difference for a lot of you guys out there at Team Elevation. Factory X is out there. There's so many fighters that are making the move to Colorado specifically for that. I mean, how much better has your cardio got since you actually made that move and have been training there at altitude?
Oh, insane, man. Like, it was really funny. It's like my last fight, I didn't run at all for camp. And then the day of weigh-ins, which is also good, going to 205, and like we do our camps right here. The day of weigh-ins, because I really fucking hate the sauna. I absolutely won't ever do a bath again. Like, fuck that. But the day of weigh-ins, I ran 6 miles, like a good. I don't remember what the pace was, but I remember like that was like actually a really good pace after like having not run at all, and I felt fantastic. Like, it was very easy. So, yeah, I mean, the cardio up here is going to be great. I know he also trains at elevation, but it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, once, when he's going to be fighting at my pace, he's going to always be worried. It's such a mental thing when you're a striker fighting a wrestler, always worrying about the takedowns. And then when it does happen, having to fight him off.
Awesome. Well, I cannot wait. Contender Series cannot get here soon enough. August the 4th, Ty Flores will make his Contender Series debut. I really appreciate the time. Before I let you go, if there's any social media you'd like to plug, or sponsors or anyone you'd like to thank, the floor is yours.
Yeah, man. I mean, all my coaches, honestly, have been putting it in for 3 months now. I'm kind of over camp, sick of it, just cutting the weight now. But yeah, man, all my team, all my coaches, showing up on the early mornings, everything like that. A lot of good guys, Nick, Grant, Anthony, all these guys have fights coming up soon. And we have 3 guys in the Contender Series right just now. So I'm going to be the first one to get that contract, but I'm definitely not going to be the last one this year. You got Nate Smith up, and then Anthony Adams. He's such a stud, man. Training with that guy this camp has just been, the guy is just like, it's absurd. The guy's the best guy in our team that's not in the UFC. So, I feel great after training with him, but just excited, man. Ready for it to be here.